sideways before.
Nice to meet you, by the way, Robin. I'm Gus. I'm actually your guys' CSM for College of Southern Idaho.
Oh, okay. I've never actually met you.
I took over for Jess. I think you guys worked with Jess and Mazzell before.
Don't know who that is.
Yeah.
So
I'll be supporting you guys with
awesome.
Canvas.
Thank you. Could I get you to pull that up one more time and see if it works?
The YouTube?
Yeah. It's not up sideways, yay.
Yeah. Should be good, right?
Why isn't it 360? Instructure360. It's working for me.
Okay.
The joys of technology.
I know, right?
Starting.
Morning, everyone. So our speaker today is Robin Bagent. She's an experienced education professional and leader who's interested in exploring new ways to engage students and make education relevant to learners of all ages and backgrounds. She holds an MBA and a Master of Distance Education from University of Maryland. She has a wide range of interests, including virtual and augmented reality, edugaming, instructional design, creative project management, and entrepreneurship. She's an associate professor and currently serves as director for business management and entrepreneurship at the College of Southern Idaho. Please welcome Robin.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate your coming to my session. If you do want to watch the live feed, the link is there, just to be able to see how the 360 works. And as the sign says, I'm here to talk about using 360-degree video in live format and then loading it into art for student review. As you mentioned, I'm from College of Southern Idaho, where I am the director for the Business Management and Entrepreneurship program. College of Southern Idaho is in southern Idaho, about halfway between Boise and Salt Lake, so we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. We're on the Snake River. It's pretty in its own way, it's just not a lot of trees. We do, however, have a lot of water activities, and we also have a really big waterfall. Its nickname is the Niagara of the West. When I was working on this project, I didn't realize that it would be quite so overwhelming. My daughter, who teaches middle school, said, "Mom, you're in the learning pit." And I, what the heck is that? And so she briefly explained, and I looked it up and went, yeah, pit of despair, that's it, that's me. So I knew I had a strong starting point because I'd done my research. I knew that students learn more effectively when video is incorporated into their learning environment. And citation, citation, citation. If you want them, I'll send them to you, but they were just too much. I also knew from, I also knew from research and interviewing my students, and about 80% of the students in my program attend online. They can do either format. But they had feelings of isolation, and that was really frustrating for them. They didn't have any sense of connectiveness. So, if I blend video and connectivity, students will perform better. At least I was hoping so. So my next step is to put together a small little, we call them mini grants at my college, where you're going to have a basically request for funds is what it is. And I submitted that and then sort of thought about the project. Not the best organizational structure. Knew nothing about what cameras I wanted, or camera. I didn't even know how a 360 camera worked. First thing I learned is, well, if you choose this camera, it'll download all these images and you manually stitch them into place so that it will show up as a continuous circle. No, don't want that. What legal hurdles did I need to deal with? I work with adults. Can't I just do it? No. I like to think I'm a nice person. Sorry. I like to think I'm a nice person, but I don't want to become a YouTube video. I can be a little sarcastic. Doesn't always come across well. What if a student can't get access? What if it doesn't work? And my biggest fear, what if I'm too old to do something new? Some days that is more true than I want to admit. And my fears went on and on to the point where I was basically paralyzed with fear. I was going to back out, but the school announced my project. They'd already set aside the money. Okay, thank you. And somewhere down deep, I really believed this would work and work well. I do have a computer background. Some days I feel like it's a lot. Some days I feel like a kindergartner. And again, I come back to, am I too old for doing something like this? Because I just kept feeling overwhelmed by the amount of learning I would have to do. I was committed to the project, whether I liked it or not. So I decided to keep going. I figured out what camera I would buy, and that's exactly this camera right here, this tiny little thing that just plugs in. $299. It is the Insta360 One. It had great reviews. I don't have to stitch the images. It automatically formats in the way that I need it. I'm able to live stream, hence the link that was at the beginning of the presentation. And I'm good to go. Yay! So I went ahead, and here, isn't that cute? And got it ordered. Only then I decided I should learn more about the camera. Like I said, I don't always do things in the right order. When I looked at the specs, I realized my cell phone's not on that list. Can't quite go back to the school and say, can I have money for a new cell phone that I want to use, once in a while, or I'm not sure how often in my classes. So I had to decide, was I willing to buy a new phone to replace my little iPhone 5? It was time. And I went ahead, started looking at phones. Yeah, back into the conflict, back into that pit. So much learning, so much information, so many options. Well, I settled on a new iPhone. My fun little phone was perfect for me. It's right here, little 8. And it kept me out of the pit. I was familiar with Apple. I could quickly move forward. My camera arrived. Yay! So excited. So many bells and whistles. So cool. I'm ready to go. So, what happens? I'm back in the pits of despair. See that tiny, tiny little bit of, that's all there was in English. I'm old, I read instructions. I got nothing out of that, basically. So, oh, and just as an FYI, they do include a whole separate handout with specific instructions, detailed instructions, for how to tie a string onto your camera and twirl it around. Go figure. I was not going to get stuck in my pit. I was going to keep moving forward and stay in construct mode. So, YouTube it is. I can be if I can YouTube. Only, yeah, back in the pits. Video after video after video. Must have watched over 100, and I still couldn't get the darn camera to work properly. I was so frustrated. I finally just pushed it off in the corner. By now it's week 9 in my term. I'm overwhelmed because that's 9 and 10 are my busiest weeks. I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I have already submitted to Instructure that I was in it. And they accepted it, so, oh crap. So, I can't even get the camera to work. So I set it aside. Finally came back to it and realized I was an idiot. Major idiot. The tiny little bit of instructions, pretty much all they tell you is if the light is blue, you're charged. Cool. They lie. When you take it out of the box, the light is blue. I didn't charge it. Not my best moment. So, don't listen to them. Don't pay attention to that. Charge your phone. While it's charging, install the Insta360 app on your phone. Just takes a minute. Install YouTube if you don't already have the YouTube app, and log into your channel. If you don't have a channel, go into YouTube, sign up for an account. Ta-da, you have a channel. Then, you're ready to go. Now you're charged, you plug it in, and you click on the little plus sign. You click shoot. A tiny little icon, and again, I do not like their size of type. Their tiny little icon comes up and it says Live 360. It also does still images, which is on the left, and direct video that's not live, and some other things. You want the Live 360. Then it's going to say, hey, let's create a new event. Yeah. You fill in your information, title and what you want to say about it. Then you share the link. Now again, the type is about 3-point type. So that's the biggest challenge to going live. It'll kick you back to this screen, and it defaults automatically to the images, so you go back to 360, and then you're ready to start filming your video interviews. When you're done, you click stop. That's all there is to it. It is that easy. I have a couple of videos up. First one was the first one I did. It's really horrible, but I picked a small class where I had 5 students in it, and we just sort of played a bit. The second one was a faculty development seminar because the school said I couldn't share the student videos from classes. I probably shouldn't have shared the first one, but I'll ask forgiveness. But it's something, so that you have something to see. Plus, this is available. Now, I wasn't able to share those videos with you because of privacy. I had verbal approval from students, but I didn't get it in writing. Last spring was the first time I did this. This fall, beginning of the term, learning structure. My students loved it. I didn't have a lot of students attend the live version, but they did watch the archived, and they commented and took part. This specific student works in food manufacturing, so he's 12-hour shifts. He was very tired. They had just changed his schedule, and he had worked overtime. So being able to take part online instead of driving 45 minutes to class was safer as well as easier. I felt like I was sitting in class. This student, her son, had chickenpox. It was a project management class. Everything is done with teams. We were able to set this on the desk. She could see the screen of the computer that they were working on as they were developing the project. She could see the other students just spin around, hey, what are you saying? And then they had their phones so they could talk as they were working together. It worked out beautifully. Quite a few of my students commented that they wished it was just adopted school-wide. Now, I have students that prefer in-class classes, but that doesn't always work out due to schedules, illness, whatever. So this way they don't miss out on content. I was a little concerned that if I made this available, that they wouldn't come to class. And overwhelmingly, they told me I was stupid. In a nicer way than that, but still. If they wanted to take it online, they would have. But they wanted that in-class experience. And then my favorite, I understood stuff better. Because they were able to go back and rewatch. If I said something that didn't quite make sense to somebody, they could comment, and someone else could explain it in a different way. And it turned into a learning community, every single one of those videos. Phenomenal. Now, it wasn't all perfect. I did have a few students have trouble getting in, and the help desk was able to primarily support them, but it wasn't in a live format. And then, as I have with all classes, do I have to watch it? No, it's on you. I did have students tell me that they passed because of that content. One of them was that gentleman whose schedule had changed. One of my favorite things is that the video saves automatically to YouTube, to your channel. So you can easily post it to Canvas Art. How many of you have ARC in your programs? Okay. It is phenomenal. I highly recommend it. There's a little V, and you click on that and it opens ARC. So you type it, you click on ARC, you click Add, you enter the URL for the YouTube link. It automatically drops it in, you click Embed, and you're done. It's not easy for you as the faculty member to put that into place. So now, you simply add your comments. It's right where that on the right, the blue, that little one line, is where you add comments. They show up in line in the timeline, in the timestamp. So if I was having a student maybe not watching one of my videos, maybe it's a TED Talk or something, they can say, or I can say, hey, watch this next section. It's really good, and then discuss your background in project management. And then they're able to do that as well. But in these, we're able to just start, I didn't understand what you said here. Or could you please explain this in a different way? And it gives me instant feedback as to how I can adjust to serve my students better. And it gives them a chance to support each other, which is what it's all about, as far as I'm concerned. So I started with a clear design, a clear plan. Life was wonderful. But it didn't take long before I got dumped into the pits of despair. My own stupidity put me there, but nevertheless. Then I realized, wait a minute, that feeling that I had, that frustration, that wanting to give up because it didn't click easily with me, my students feel that. How fortunate that I was able to put myself in that position so that I could empathize more effectively with my students when they have trouble. Have to get something decent out of it, what the heck. And I did reach my eureka moment, and my students were able to reap the benefits, as was I. Lots of learning. I learned failing happens repeatedly. Just keep going. Don't let yourself shut down. I wish I hadn't pushed everything aside and just shut down in frustration, because I would have been able to have earlier results and even more results. And just on a second, I'm going to make sure. It turned out very well, and I have awesome results, but it could have gone the other way. On the operations end, make sure that you get video permission in writing from the students before you start videoing. In YouTube, I didn't really have very many students attend live because majority of the in class were in class. The students that attend online usually do so because of work schedules or family commitments or something like that. But I did have a few. So what we did, because the comments that are entered in during the live feed don't enter into ARC, easily rectified. I would give a student my iPad and they would read any comments that were made, and that way they were recorded and added to the session. The paperwork says it has 70 minutes of recording time. They lie. It has 50 minutes. Hence, if you watch the faculty development seminar on grading less, it's not complete because it cut us off. But I wanted to see how long it would go. Remember to check the small stuff like charging your equipment. And then the most humorous issue that I had to deal with was students mugging the camera. I had to start each session early and let them get their out of the way. And I couldn't laugh or we were just all gone. So the process itself is easy. I overthought it. I made it a lot more complicated than it needed to be. Happens a lot with technology, at least as far as I'm concerned. But it is an easy process, and I have seen specific benefits for my students. I don't know, it's too early yet to know how much is due to novelty and how much is due to, this is just really cool and we want to keep it forever and ever. We'll know more after fall term. But it was easy when I got myself out of the way. I love talking about technology and visiting with people. If you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to give me or send me an email. I was going to put my cell phone number on it in case you wanted to contact me here, and I thought, my cell phone number on YouTube, maybe not the best decision.
Will you be sharing the link to the slides?
Yes. Sure, you betcha. Meanwhile, thank you very much. And if I can answer any questions, to my email, yes. Whoops.
Can you put your YouTube link?
I killed it. That's not me. Help. arbagent@csi.edu. Yes, I have a computer background.
The YouTube slide. Is that okay to put that up?
Is that what? Yeah, that one. Which slide did you want?
Well,
This one?
I want to see this slide.
Okay.
Well, can you go with your email? Yeah, I have a quick question. For your YouTube videos, do you do subtitles?
It automatically does subtitles in my YouTube.
Okay.
I do have to periodically go in and edit them when it's just, because I have a list.
And how well does it do subtitles?
It usually does pretty well. And I also use Dragon Speak for other projects. Oh,
Do students find the quality hard to watch or?
I also include my slide decks, so if they have, if they need something more clear, they can see the slide deck. The quality depends on connectivity, and it varies at my school significantly.
Okay, so you said it was a 50-minute recording time. Is that battery life, or is it because of the resolution that you can render?
Battery life.
Battery life. Did
Yeah.
you not plug in your camera while it's recording?
No. Like I said, a lot of lessons learned. If I had it to do over again, I probably wouldn't have bought an iPhone because this plugs in. I can't charge my iPhone. I can't charge my camera. They all interlock, so I'm dead in the water. But I don't know how an Android would perform.
Okay, two questions. One is, did you find that there was a certain place to put the camera that worked better than others? And then two, did you see any attendance drop off? Since you were recording the students maybe just watching online rather than coming to class, did you experience that at all?
Zero attendance drop. And at first, I put the camera up front in the classroom, and the students moved it to the middle of the class. They wanted it to be in a seat, like it was them, like a fellow class member. So my students lead a lot of the decisions, which I do on purpose. If you were here for my last year's presentation, it was student-run curriculum, and it was fun.
Can we see your last slide again?
Yep. I think. Here we go. That one?
Yeah.
So when you mentioned the group project where the lady who could come because of these kids do talks and she worked the group, you just moved the camera around as...
I do small groups, so I don't think that was on. But it was, do I move the camera around if they're working in groups? In this case, there was only one student absent. So we set it with her small group, and they just treated it like it was her. Okay. Over here, and over here. I'm not able to hear you.
Is any of the content searchable? If students in the search video?
In ARC, I don't believe ARC is searchable, no.
Okay. And the second question I have is around just a clarification. You mentioned the line fees where the gravity fees
I didn't use another product because I didn't realize they existed. And on a selfish note, I wanted a camera to play with. That's really the biggest reason, is I wanted to play. My students incorporate a lot of video in the business program, so they can check cameras out, and I have a drone, and I have a couple of other cameras, and I wanted a 360 option for them to play with.
Could you show that first slide again, please?
The first
Had the
use,
first YouTube.
oops, there we go. The first use is really bad. I didn't
Well,
know
the
it.
very first one has, yeah.
Oh, today's, yes. That one. Yes.
Although, our
Wait a second, she needs to, so that it's captured, sorry.
Although ARC has caption ability, did you have any complications with accessibility issues?
Last term, I did not have students with accessibility issues. So it wasn't something I focused on this summer. I've gone through and edited a little bit in the student videos, well, the one I kept. I did let students know that at the end of the term I would delete their videos so that they weren't hanging out forever in YouTube land. But I do know that they are subtitled. Any other questions? Thank you again very much for coming. I appreciate it.